You think your silver is safe in a bank vault. One emergency memo, one resolution order, and a line of fine print you never read can flip it from your property to their capital overnight. In this video, we expose the hidden bail-in clause buried in modern bank agreements that lets institutions legally trap and potentially use your physical silver holdings in a crisis without passing a new confiscation law or touching a single coin in your hand. You walk into your bank in 2026 thinking you're doing something smart. You're not there to ask for a loan. You're not there to beg for a credit increase. You're there for something real. In your safety deposit box, 3 floors down in the vault, you've got 50 pounds of silver, your plan B, your hedge, your, if everything breaks, I still have this money. You sign in, you wait. But this time the teller doesn't hand you the little key and wave you through. The branch manager walks out instead. He's polite, he's pale, and he's holding a stack of papers. "Sir, ma'am, we've entered a resolution phase," he says. You have no idea what that means. He doesn't give you a withdrawal slip. He gives you a legal notice. It says your safety deposit box and everything inside it is now designated restricted capital. You argue. "That's my silver. I bought it. I have the receipts. That box is mine." He doesn't disagree. He just points to one sentence on page 14 of the contract you signed when you opened the box. And then he says the words that should scare every stacker on earth. According to this clause, you're not a customer anymore. You're a shareholder. In one line of fine print, your emergency savings just got reclassified from property to capital. And capital, in a bank resolution, is fuel. While everyone is still arguing on the internet about some future gold confiscation act, the banks have quietly written a system where they don't need to confiscate your metal at all. They just change the label. No new 1933 law, just a 2026 bail-in. If you have silver in a bank, this is the mechanism you're actually exposed to. And if you haven't read the clause, you are playing a game where you don't know the rules. Let's fix that. We've all been sold the same picture. A bank vault is just a high-tech version of a shoebox under your bed. Same idea, more cameras. That's the lie. In legal terms, in 2026, the second you hand your metal to a bank employee and let them lock it inside their building, the status of that metal changes. With a normal cash deposit, you become an unsecured creditor. You've loaned the bank your money. Under Dodd Frank and the newer global resolution rules that have spread through the G20, if a big bank gets into trouble, they are not supposed to be saved by taxpayers the old-fashioned way. No too-big-to-fail bailouts on the front page. Instead, they are supposed to bail in, convert what they owe to creditors, into equity and loss-absorbing instruments, to plug the hole in their balance sheet. Who are those creditors? Large bondholders, derivative counterparties, and you. Now you might say, "But my silver is physical, it's not a number in an account, it can't be bailed in." That's where the trap gets subtle. Because the whole trick lives in one quiet question. Under your bank's contract, are you being treated as an owner or as a tenant? Most people never read the 15 to 20-page agreement they sign when they rent a safety deposit box. If you did, in 2026, you'd find the hidden clause is not labeled confiscation. It's labeled terms of tenancy. In the old world, many vault relationships were structured as bailment. You hand the bank your specific item, they hold it for you. They have a legal duty to give exactly that item back. In a bailment, if they use your asset without permission, they're in deep trouble. That model is disappearing. Instead, more banks use a landlord-tenant framework. They're not saying, "We're protecting your silver." They're saying, "We are renting you a 4 by 10-inch steel box inside our building." Legally, that's a different world. Under a landlord-tenant model, they owe you access to a space under normal conditions. They do not guarantee uninterrupted access in an emergency. And they definitely don't promise to give you anything if the building is closed for safety or regulatory resolution. So when a resolution event hits and regulators say, "Shut the doors, nobody in, nobody out," the bank isn't seizing your silver in a legal sense. They're closing the building. You are just a tenant of a box in a closed building. You have no emergency right to break in. They can stay closed for weeks, then months. While you're locked out, senior creditors negotiate. Hedge funds and big institutions cut deals. Regulators decide which assets move where. Your silver is now collateral in limbo. It's not in your hand. It's not in your house. It's in a legal gray zone, inside a failed institution, while a resolution committee decides how to allocate losses. That's the environment where one sentence on page 14 flips you from person with a box to class of capital. And that's exactly where the next layer of risk comes in. Why does this matter so much for silver in particular? Because in 2026, silver isn't just a metal, it's paperwork. It's been classified, on paper, as a critical strategic mineral. Same bucket as rare earth elements, key semiconductor inputs, certain energy materials. Governments don't think of silver as a hedge for you. They think of it as feedstock for solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries, high-end electronics, data centers, and AI infrastructure. There's an entire policy framework, things like the Domestic Energy Security and Critical Minerals Acts, that quietly state, in times of national emergency, the state can requisition critical minerals held by financial institutions. Notice those last three words, held by financial institutions. If your silver is in your house, in a private vault, hidden in a place only you know, that is one kind of problem for a government. They have to identify you, prove what you hold, get a warrant, send law enforcement. It's messy, it's public, it's risky. If your silver is in a bank, in a safety deposit box, in a bank-branded precious metals storage program, that is a very different problem. Because the bank already has you KYC'd. Your metals are already logged in a system, the vault is already on a regulatory inventory, and the institution is already wired into crisis resolution procedures. So when a national emergency is declared and critical minerals come into focus, one phone call from a central authority can freeze those vaults, convert tenant boxes into restricted capital, and move metal from private savings to strategic stockpile. The bank gets regulatory favor, possible tax credits, a pat on the head for patriotic cooperation. You get a receipt, maybe a promise of future compensation in a currency that's being diluted to handle the same crisis. On paper, nothing was seized. Your name is still on a list, but your metal is gone. So what do you do with this? How do you break the clause before the clause breaks you? First, the 24-hour rule. If you have metal sitting in a bank, in a safety deposit box, in a bank-run storage program, or in any structure where the word bank is on the door, you have to assume the counterparty risk is not theoretical anymore. It's not maybe someday. We've already seen bail-ins in Cyprus, frozen accounts in Lebanon, emergency powers in Canada, capital controls in multiple crises. The 24-hour rule is simple. If you'd be devastated to lose it in a bail-in, it doesn't belong inside a bank. Not next quarter. Not after I get around to it. Now. Second, know the difference between a bank vault and a private vault. Private vaults are not banks, do not lend money, are not sitting on derivatives books, often operate under pure bailment law. In a bailment structure, your metal remains legally yours, not the vault's. It is segregated from the company's own balance sheet. If the vault company goes bankrupt, your metal is not swept into their estate. It remains your property. You can still have operational risk, fire, theft, fraud. Nothing is zero risk. But you have removed the bank resolution and bail-in layer from the equation. Third, the midnight check at home. If you've done the right thing and moved metal out of banks and into your house, a personal safe, a hidden cache, ask, if something happens, fire, theft, flood, does my insurance cover this? Or am I self-insured? Most home policies in 2026 still have tiny caps on precious metals. Numbers like $500, $1,000, maybe $5,000. Beyond that, you're on your own unless you buy a specific rider. So you don't want to trade bank resolution risk for total loss risk with no protection. The smart move is usually some metal in secure private bailment storage, some metal under your direct control. An honest assessment of what you can afford to lose in any single point of failure. Fourth, read the contract. Not a blog, not a comment thread, the actual contract. Your bank's safety deposit agreement. Your vault terms and conditions. Your storage program paperwork. Look for words like tenant, licensee, no bailment, unsecured creditor, resolution, bail-in. If a clause explicitly disclaims bailment and calls you a tenant, you know what game you are playing. At that point, Leaving metal there is not a neutral act. It's a bet that the clause will never be used. Here's the final warning. The hidden clause works because it relies on one thing: your complacency. It relies on you believing, my country is different, my bank is safe, if something goes wrong, they'll make me whole. But look around in 2026. Russia selling reserves to stay afloat. Western banks tightening terms quietly. Trade wars turning legal frameworks into moving targets. Critical minerals being elevated to national security assets. The walls aren't just closing in on paper wealth, they're creeping closer around private metal too. Physical silver is the ultimate insurance policy. But only if you are the one actually holding the keys. If your insurance policy is locked in the building of the same entity that's being resolved, subject to a contract that calls you tenant or shareholder, you don't have insurance. You have a front row seat to your own bail-in. Get your metal out of the system. Own it. Hold it. Protect it. And before you trust any institution with it again, read the clause that decides whether you're a customer or just another line of capital. Is your silver currently in a bank? Have you actually read the fine print? If you found anything shocking in your bank or vault contract, post it in the comments. Don't share account details, just the language. Let's drag these clauses out of the dark and into the open. This is RateScope. Stay sharp. Stay stacking.